My name is Philip Injeian. I'm actually originally from New York City. I've had my shop in Pittsburgh now for almost 20 years. I do a lot of restoration. There's maintenance needed on the instruments. Usually they have to be maintained like every year, going through servicing. So there can be things that have to be done, such as planing a fingerboard or making a new sound post or bridge. And it should be done on a yearly basis usually. I also build my own instruments, so I'm very pleased to say that I'm one of the few violin makers in a major city that actually still builds instruments. I have all the major first players of the city that own my instruments, but they have great old instruments like Stradivarius and Guarneri's, but it's nice to have backups, and that's why they'll have often a modern instrument as a backup. I was restoring this violin here that came in that was made in Chicago in 1984 by a colleague of mine, Michael Becker. So I had to do a real overhaul on the instrument, thorough cleaning of the instrument. I had to put a new sound post in, which is a critical piece that goes inside. It has to be fitted just right. You know, I work on bows for the musicians of the symphony as well as I said, the students here. It's a regular maintenance thing to rehear a bow, meaning putting on new horsehair. It has to be done usually a minimum of once a year. It has to be able to take a lot of pressure. If the hairs are too thin, they'll break too easily. The black hairs are meant to go on bass bows because the bass, having thicker strings, can take more abuse. Antonio Stradivari is maybe the most famous of all the violin makers in history. So in his lifetime, we know he created close to 1,200 instruments. Most violin makers are lucky to create 300 to 500 instruments in their lifetime. And here, without machines the way we have today, he was able to do 1,200 instruments in his lifetime. Now, half of those instruments have disappeared, but those 550 or 600 instruments that have survived, they're obviously major gems. Visually, of course, they're beautiful and perfect workmanship, but the model was the most perfect for sound production. And so this was made, this is like a Stradivari. This instrument was made in 1680 in Cremona. So this instrument was made, as you can see, with beautiful flamed maple like this, which is not indigenous, again, to Italy. This was found in the former Yugoslavia. I like to explain quality in such a way for most people to understand. You know, people are always amazed when I tell them that there are these violins that go for millions of dollars, and you can buy a violin for $500 or $1,000 and it's perfectly fine. But why is that one instrument worth so much more? That's the difference between great quality and high achievement, and that's why we pay for the things that are exceptional. In the case of instruments, they're like fine wines. They get better with age. The instrument itself is organic, and it tempers itself to the artist. So with time, he can make it work at its optimum. And that's what I also try to do with musicians. I try to adjust their instruments to them. So you have to sort of know what the musician is looking for. I like to think that one of my big advantages in this profession is I've played violin, I studied the violin, so I know what my clients are looking for.